Hey guys, this is Julie with Deep Soul Counsel, and I am about to get comfortable because this is going to be the most personal and in-depth reading I have ever shared on my YouTube channel. But I think it's important to be completely transparent and share with you the things that I go through as well. I've had about almost 2 weeks to process the situation, so I feel like I'm at a point and a place where I can share what I've gathered from this experience. Before I get started, I want to let you guys know that your May 2018 readings are below. The link is below. The link is below. Click the links, go to videos, find your sign, watch your video. You may also want to watch your rising and moon sign. But I've had a lot of people actually have a lot of good results with watching the video for their sun sign. Okay, so what I'm going to share with you is almost going to sound unbelievable because it is 2018 and I have been disowned by members of my family because they believe that I practice witchcraft. Now, before I go any further, I just want to stop and say that I have nothing against people who practice witchcraft. I think it's an amazing form of, it's an amazing belief system with their own unique forms and customs and beliefs. And I think that we're all trying to get to the same place and we're just taking different routes. I feel like we have a lot in common with those who practice witchcraft as far as power with our words and things like that. But I do not actively practice witchcraft, right? Okay, so let me give you kind of, let me go back a little bit. So I have these two aunts. They're super religious. They're my father's sisters. And from the beginning, they really not liked what I did, but I don't think that they kind of understood the depth of what I did, right? And from the beginning, they were saying, like, it's okay, it's not okay what you do. We're going to pray for you, but please don't bring it around the house. Don't talk about it with the kids. If they ask you questions, don't answer them. We don't want them going down your path. We care about their soul, things like that, right? So fine, I was respectful. When I got texts, I wouldn't answer them, out of respect for the parents, right? Out of respect for the parents. And everything was okay. But one of my aunts, I guess, she went over to my grandparents' house and she seen a diffuser bracelet that I had given my grandfather. And, I put some frankincense, sent some frankincense for it because he was having some health issues. I thought it could help. I think that she also maybe watched one of my videos where I was using oracle cards and she just flipped. And basically she told my other aunt to tell the members of the family that I was not welcome there and that they did not want me around anymore. And two priests, she had went to church, and two different priests, had told her to stay away from me because I was evil and that having connections with me would, God could punish the people for having connections with me because what I do is evil. So then it became both my aunts, right? And I know my uncles feel bad about what happened, but at the same time, they didn't and I'm not going into, accusatory statements or anything like that. I'm just kind of trying to show you how everything went down so we can get to the ending and how I was able to process and how I can help you hopefully handle rejection if that comes up in your life. We may even pull a few cards at the end. So just talking about it. So at first, obviously I was hurt at first and my ego felt attacked. That's the first thing that happens is our ego feels attacked. And so my ego feels attacked. And right away, I tell, my uncle, I say, you know what, if hell does exist, then there's a special place for her because her actions are the opposite of those of Jesus Christ. And, she is not following his teachings. She's so religious, but she's not following his teachings. And, Jesus, he defended prostitutes. He kicked it with tax collectors. Even, he would say, his disciples would say, why are you giving your time to these wicked people? And Jesus would say, they need me more, right? They need me more than you do. You've already found the way. They need me more. So I felt like everything that she believed in and was, so founded in, she was acting the complete opposite. So right away, that was my first reaction. And I don't know if he ever told her or not because I haven't asked him. And then my second reaction was, you know what, I don't practice witchcraft, but it's not my fault that you guys don't have the intelligence to understand what it is I actually do practice. All right, so after a day of kind of feeling sorry for myself and feeling rejected, because nobody can make you feel rejected unless you allow it, right? I allowed it. I wanted to have that human moment, right? Because I'm always living in this spiritual realm and constantly having to touch things to remind me where I'm at and to keep me grounded. And so I just wanted to have this moment of humanness, which I wasn't even granted that, because I'm so sensitive that I was picking up on the emotions of my family members, the ones who did disown me, the ones who did, ban me from the homes in Chicago, where my grandparents live, where my uncle lives. So I was like trying to process it, and then I was trying to be angry, and I couldn't be angry because I kept feeling her fear, my aunt's fear. The one who, got upset about the bracelet and seen the video and started all this. Like, she felt so scared that my being around was going to put her daughter's eternal, how should I say it? I was going to put her daughter's soul in jeopardy of eternal damnation, that she was willing to reject me and be cruel and cast me away and this and that, because what mattered most at that moment was for her to not have that influence, that which she deemed was a bad influence in her daughter's life. She was afraid that I would somehow rub off on her, or that her daughter would be interested in what I do, or that, I could just feel this fear from her. So even though I wanted to be angry, my ego wanted to be angry, I couldn't be angry because I felt her fear, and I began to feel sad for her. And then, my other aunt as well. I feel like she feels that she will be punished if she has connections with people like me. Like, I can feel that they actually feel that. They're not being mean. They're not being, it's almost like they didn't do it in a way to purposely hurt me. Their fear of going to hell, or their children going to hell by having association with me, was so big that it was like an emergency to make sure that I was told that I never go back, right? So I started to think, after because I think it's important that we process our emotions. So I processed the hurt, I processed the rejection. And I remember thinking, like, before I came to my spiritual self, I'm still trying to have a human moment, but I can't, because I'm feeling all their emotions, and I'm trying to block their emotions out so that I can process how I feel. And, I remember it started with my father. I was like, this is the second time I've been rejected by somebody in this family, or by people in this family. It started when my father abandoned me. I think he just decided, I think I was like 10 or 11. He just decided he didn't want to be a dad no more. Who does that, right? They're in your life, and then they decide they don't want to be a dad no more, and then they just kind of disappear. And you don't see them until you're an adult, right? And then they want money. True story. But that's another video. Anyways, so I felt like, so it was like all those emotions that I felt, even like, I'm getting teary with you, but not because I'm still hurt about it. I'm getting teary with you because I remember myself as a child and feeling those emotions of abandonment and betrayal, and like if I was loved more, then he would have stayed. Things like that kids go through, right? But I wasn't allowed to express myself. So I just kind of hoarded them, because, we weren't allowed to really feel sorry for ourselves. Anytime we tried to feel sorry for ourselves, it would be brought up like, well, people have it worse than you, but that's crazy, because if you can't be sad because somebody else has it worse than you, that's the same thing as saying that you can't be happy because somebody has it better than you, right? It doesn't make sense. Anyway, moving forward, it brought back all those emotions. So it wasn't the fact that I cared about what they thought about me, or that I felt attacked so much. It was they were bringing up old wounds that I hadn't wanted to look at or address. Seriously. I seen my dad for the first time, I think about 2.5 years ago. And I haven't talked to him since. I changed my number and everything. And they were just bringing back all that, right? And I didn't know that obviously I needed to deal with that, or else this wouldn't happen. Anyway, so I go into meditation after I get done trying to win my human war of emotion, which is not happening because I can feel the emotions of my aunt, both of them. I can feel the emotions of their children who probably feel bad or whatever. And I can feel the emotions of my uncles who felt bad about the whole situation, but didn't feel bad enough to really stand up and say anything, which it's not their job. It's okay. You know, they didn't want problems with their siblings either. So I started to realize everything that I talk about. I started going through my videos and I'm like, Julie, like, don't you realize that she didn't reject you? She rejected a perception of what she thinks that you are. You're not that perception. And you always speak of two vibrations of different frequencies are unable to occupy the same space for extended periods of time. And what happens when they do is one pulls from the other. So you'll have one person feeling drained, one person feeling energized. But what happens is when the gap in vibration is so high between two people, they will just not be in each other's lives or in each other's energy. Like, it's impossible, right? And so I was thinking to myself, as I'm growing and I'm maturing in my abilities, that there's no way that she could be in my life. We are vibrating at a completely different frequency. Even if she wanted to be in my life, like, her frequency won't allow it. Do you understand? Not that she's lower or less than me, but I'm vibrating at a higher frequency, right? And no matter what she does, she's kind of stuck in her frequency from fear and from the way she was brought up, and she's so deep in her beliefs, right? She's suffers from paranoia and all these other things, and I thought to myself, like, why am I so upset? Like, this is what's supposed to happen. People are gonna fall out of your life that no longer match who you are. People are gonna fall out of your life once they, you know, come into your life to teach you what they came to teach you. So this experience taught me a few things. Number one, it taught me that I had been, that I still had some emotions that I thought I had dealt with when I went to Mexico. I forgave my father. I told him, you know, thank you for coming into my existence and playing the part that you did, because it made me who I am. And I don't remember choosing this way. I must have been in a hurry, but I know I chose this path. And it brought up that so that I could digest the final piece of that hurt of that little girl inside of me that still felt rejected from her dad, right? And I needed that. And how was that going to come up? I mean, how else was I going to deal with that aside from this situation? Do you see the universe puts people and circumstance in your life in the perfect order that you need? You can either learn the lesson, and that's what I'm doing, or you can repeat the lesson in some other way and then just continue that cycle, like, because you want to be in denial and refuse that there's a lesson. You want to feel so justified in your victimhood that you don't want to see the lesson. You don't want to move forward, right? And I was like, I'm not a fucking victim. This is how vibrations work. I'm no longer in her frequency. Am I going to miss seeing my grandparents in Chicago? Yeah, but you know what? It's, you know, it takes pressure off my back. I don't have to feel like I have to go visit anybody. They know that I love them. They know what happened, and it is what it is. Like, I'm completely okay. I don't feel rejected anymore. I feel like this was completely necessary, and I feel bad for them. Like, I couldn't imagine waking up and having those beliefs that they have and having to function in that kind of prison every day. So every ounce of anger that I had just melted away. Every bit. And even though the ego was like, hey, wait, you are justified in being mad, and it is, right now is a moment that you can take to be angry and criticize and judge, and it's almost like I just couldn't. It's like I'm at a spiritual point where I just can't, because I know better. You know what I mean? Even though part of me still lingers to be human, I know better on a deeper level. I know better. So I wanted to talk to you about rejection, because when you feel like somebody's rejecting you, they're not rejecting you. Sometimes, number one, if it's a relationship, the universe could be saving you from yourself. If they're continuously hurting you, and you're like, oh, I love them, why are they hurting me? But then they keep hurting you. It's almost like the universe is trying to let you know that's not the person for you. You know what I mean? It has your back when you don't even have your back. It looks out for you when you don't even look out for yourself. You can say universe, guides, angels, whatever that is to you. There is a force that has your best interest at heart. And the source of connecting to that force is your intuition, right? And so I started thinking too about when I was little. I had my first psychic experience when I was 3, but I didn't know it was a psychic experience. You know, it's like now looking back, I realize, you know, I recognize things for what they were, but at the time I didn't know that it was that. When I lived in Mexico with my dad's family, you know, I was beginning to show signs of clairsentience and claircognizance, and my interest was moving towards spirituality, and they shut that shit down real quick. I remember staying up till like 2 o'clock in the morning. We were praying with the rosaries, and I kept falling asleep and nodding off, and they're like, you know, that's the devil trying to distract you, and that's the devil trying to keep you from praying. And in my head, I remember thinking like, no, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm fucking tired. But I didn't say that, right? I loved God. I was a Christian Catholic till I was 28. I grew up in fucking Bible school. I've read the Bible 32 times front to back. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of what Christ spoke about that I really feel has value, right? That can provide value. I just feel like other parts were misinterpreted, you know, by less than conscious people. But I feel like there are parts of the Bible that provide a lot of value and give great wisdom, like in any other religion, right? Whether it's witchcraft or Buddhism or universalism or, you know, whatever it is, I feel like we can all see this underlining truth that is like woven throughout each religion. And we're all trying to get to the same place. So my grandmother had like this secret meeting where she took me to the priest, and I was told stories about children who had experimented with spiritualism and actually had been possessed. I don't know if the stories were true or not. You know, I seen pictures, and it was enough to scare the fuck out of me. To where from the time I was 8 until I was 28, I wanted nothing to do with spirituality, psychics, astrology, the devil. I mean, none of that. But when I was 28 years old, I had this huge awakening, and it was terrifying. It was really, really scary. I thought to myself, wow, you know, I'm being possessed. Like, it finally caught up with me. That's what's happening. But that's not what happened. I remember being in a corner, you know, covering my head saying, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. Part of me was scared for my mental health. I thought I was going crazy. I was beginning to see things and hear things. And it just really frightened me. You know, I didn't know that water spoke. I didn't think of it as a live element. I was able to see my spirit guide. Ask me about the picture. I'll send it to you. You can download it, have anybody look at it. That picture has not fucking been altered. And there he is in the corner. You know, the ability to see colors and to see auras, and it was just moving so fast, so fast, so fast. And it's because it had built inside of me for so long and for so many years that eventually I could no longer run from who I was. And, you know, so I had this great awakening. And, that is kind of how that went. And so I want to pull a card for anybody who is going through any type of feelings or situations where they feel rejected, or they feel used, or they feel unappreciated. I want you to get the hell out of victimhood. Look at your life and realize you're only a victim because you're allowing your fucking self to be a victim. Do you understand me? Because it's like, okay, something happens, and that humanness, that human part of you is going to recognize it. Your ego is going to get on the defense because that's what your ego does. Take a few days. That's fine. You want to feel sorry for yourself? Fine. You want to feel hurt? Fine. You want to, whatever it is. But man, don't stay there longer than 2 or 3 days. Come on now. Like, nobody's worth that shit. You know, sometimes our inability to see things that we need to deal with, my past trauma, you know, sometimes ignoring those things that we need to deal with, Source has nothing else, like no other choice but to create and orchestrate a situation that will bring up those feelings. Period. I mean, you have committed to spiritual development, spiritual growth, and that's going to happen. And so I think I talked about it in the last video, the people, circumstances, everything you need are going to be provided for you for that growth to happen in whatever way it needs to happen. And you can either choose to learn the lesson and move forward, or you can be a victim and get upset and get mad that you were rejected and that nobody likes you and that people are treating you bad or that people are abusing you or whatever it is, and just kind of fucking stay justified in your victimhood. But eventually, you know, you're going to realize that the same lesson is appearing over and over and over, different places, different faces, but with the same problem. Do you understand what I'm saying? Attracting the same type of people or the same type of situation or the same type of problem. You got to just face it and look at it for what it is. It's a challenge. It's a part of life that you have to move through in order to get to the next step of development, in order to get to the next stage. You know what I'm saying? But when you're in victimhood, it's almost like you're saying, nope, I don't want to move because I want to sit here and feel angry. We become addicted to our emotions. The emotion of stress. Do you know that when you feel stress, it releases cortisol? A chemical called cortisol from your brain. Do you know that people actually become addicted to the feeling of that, and they will look for reasons to be offended? I'm serious. They will look for reasons to be offended. They will flip different news stations that they think will say something against what they believe just so that they can get their rush of cortisol to be offended. It's insane. And I'm telling you because I don't want you to fall in that trap. So I'm going to pull a card for anybody who attracts this video into their life. That is my intention. I am setting the intention. I'm going to pull a card from 2 different decks. I'm going to pull a card from 2 different decks. Anybody who is suffering with the pain of rejection or feeling unwanted or less than, somebody made them feel less than, somebody made them feel like they didn't matter, or like they, or like their position was not valid. Like they were evil or they were toxic, whatever it was, okay? Any advice that I haven't yet spoke on, or correct me if I'm wrong in any way. So we're going to do 2. You have Heal the Ouch in reverse. And Stormfield upright. So I'm going to set these down, and I'm going to go ahead and go into this deck. This is kind of a rough deck. It just alerts us to our emotions, and it talks about what we need to, you know, what we need to look at, what could be the root cause of what we need to deal with, and how we can go about processing it. I love you guys so much. You guys are my best friends. Like, I'm so sensitive that I really isolate myself outside of Facebook. Grief. I understand that losing something is an opportunity to appreciate it. How on point. Give me 1 second. I just want to check the time because I gotta get my children here soon. Actually, so you have the cards, Stormfields, or Heal the Ouch first, and then it was Stormfields, and then it was Grief. I'm going to pause this video, go get the kids from school, and then when I return, I will finish. All right? I will meditate when I return and then finish because I'm sure I'm going to break my trance. All right, 1 second. Hey guys, I'm back. So I went and picked up the children and sat in a meditation. And so I'm ready to interpret these cards. And it's crazy that you drew these cards because let's take a look at the first one. It's Heal the Ouch. And this card, when this card appears, it asks you to look at your life and see the areas that you need to make amends with. It asks you to practice radical forgiveness, to walk the path of the shaman, to be the bigger person, to have the higher understanding, to not look at it as something that was done against you, but to look at it as something that was done for you. If you look, you have, you know, one animal who is tending to the needs of the other animal. You have, you know, the nurse hat, and the other one has like an ice pack on their head. And think about a cut or an ouch on our physical self, just for a second. And so our body naturally knows how to heal itself. Our soul also knows how to heal us emotionally, right? It knows the path that we should take. So say we get a big cut, right? And everybody's like, oh my gosh, that cut is so bad. Oh, you poor thing. Oh my goodness. And so the cut starts to heal up, but then we rip it off again, right? So that we can just keep gaining that sympathy and gaining that pity. And everywhere we go, it's almost like, oh my God, we're the center of attention. Oh my God, you poor thing. You know, look at how bad it is. And so every time that wound tries to heal over, we rip it back open by, you know, by crying about how bad it is and how deep it is. And look at me, I'm wounded, you know, and in that way, it can't heal. And the same thing goes with your soul. If you want to, because this was in the reverse position, if you want to grow and evolve, you have to heal. And in order to heal that shit, you have to feel that shit. All right. And so when we use substances or drink alcohol or things like that, not saying that I'm against any of those things. I don't believe, you know, I feel like to each their own. And, I mean, I don't really feel like my sense of right and wrong. It's just, things just are, right? I try not to judge things as right and wrong. Because what is completely legal and right on one side of the world is completely viewed as illegal and wrong on the other side of the world. So I try to stay in the middle where I just look at things as they are. And that takes practice, and I'm working on it. But so this card is reminding you to let yourself heal. Like, let yourself heal, because if you don't, you may be, you know, you may have gotten over and pinned the blame on that person and made them feel terrible and something like that. But you're going to have the same lesson with somebody else, and you're going to have to repeat the same thing over and over, and it gets just fucking get old after a while. You know what I mean? Let yourself heal, practice radical forgiveness. Anybody that has hurt you, it's like, let it go. Understand that for whatever reason it was necessary, and this is why it was necessary. You had the storm fields, and think about a storm, man. That's like pent up energy, and it needs to be released. It steers shit up. That's what it does. And so in my experience, you know, that feeling of abandonment and rejection and, you know, it felt like it was exactly what I needed to bring those other emotions about my father up that I thought I had processed and I hadn't. I have now, but it's like that in some way that could have been holding me back that I was unaware of, because I didn't even know that I still had those issues. I thought I had taken care of that, right? But the way my family members made me feel, it reminded me exactly how I felt when I was younger. And I realized, like, wow, this still hurts me. If you think about something and it still hurts you and it still has the effect to change how you feel, then you're not completely over it, right? And so this is asking you to look at the storms as necessary. You know, the ones that are in your life. I'm not saying go out and look for storms. Storms aren't fun, right? But it brings rain. It helps things grow. You know, it moves things around. It stirs up what's on the bottom. It unclutters, right? It unclutters the energy. It unclutters the air around us. And I feel like the thunderstorms that are going on inside of you, like, these people had to come into your life and do whatever they did, you know, to bring you awareness of this. And you may think like, no, they were the cause. I didn't have that shit before they existed. But that's not true. And if you're completely honest with yourself and you take a moment to actually reflect on the lesson and reflect on what you could learn instead of what you think you know, you'll actually see that that is the truth. Now let us look at grief. I understand that losing something is an opportunity to appreciate it. The feeling of grief, it's like, whether it was a relationship that we absolutely wanted, or, you know, that marriage that we spent years in, and now we just hold on even though it's toxic for us, because I'll be damned if I put that many years into something just to let it go or to let somebody else have it. That's ego talking. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the ego is not as evolved as a soul. So you can't allow ego to make spiritual decisions on your behalf, right? It's like a toddler telling you how to run your home. Like, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, the toddler's loud. Yeah, the toddler's noisy. Yeah, the toddler throws fits. But it doesn't have the knowledge that it needs to successfully keep your house from falling into chaos, right? And keep the bills paid and keep the yard tended and, you know, take care of the children. A toddler couldn't do all those things. And so think of your ego as a toddler. Now let's look at grief. Losing something is an opportunity to appreciate it. So what have you lost? Maybe some of your pride. Maybe in my instance, you know, I lost some family members, but losing them gave me the ability to appreciate their role in my life. And I would have never seen it if this wouldn't have happened, right? Perhaps the person who is doing you wrong, I'm not saying that they're okay for doing that to you, but what I'm saying is maybe that is a wake-up call to open your eyes and look at what you are tolerating. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you weren't created to tolerate things that put you down, that make you feel bad, you know? And so when somebody is showing you those actions, it kind of reflects how you feel about yourself, and you need to kind of work on that. Have you lost yourself? Because it's a perfect time to begin to appreciate yourself again if you have. Whatever you have lost. Maybe some of you guys are dealing with actual loss, like physical death. And, you know, it's funny. For instance, my mother died of cancer a while back, and I remember I didn't have my awakening until I was 28. I was angry. I still held anger with her about how I was raised and what I felt like I lacked, and the opportunities I felt were taken from me. And, you know, and I didn't blame my dad. He wasn't around. And my mom was the only one there. And my mom did her very best with what she had. And even right now, I wish I could take her by the hand and tell her everything she did. I understand. My mother is my queen. And now being a mom, I understand the amount of pressure she was under. The fact that she was suffering from depression, and I feel like, man, now I appreciate her. I wish she would have known how much I loved her and appreciated her when she died. She would try to talk and apologize, and I wouldn't want to deal with those feelings. So I would say, I love you too, Mom. It's okay. And, you know, I would hang up to get off the phone. I should have appreciated those moments with her, right? And so now that that grief, I had to process that grief and live with the guilt for a little while. But now I realize, I wrote this for my mom, and it's, Dear Mama, I can hear you in the earth, and there's no diamond that could ever match your worth. Hail to the queen that gave me life through birth. Her majesty is still an echo of the earth. That is something I could have never written my mother while she was alive. So I'm not saying death is great and grief is wonderful and storm clouds are fabulous and ouches are, let's go chase the ouch. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is when they come, and they will come because it's part of learning, just don't be a victim. Just look at it for what it is. Realize that it has nothing to do with you. People are going to do a lot of shit in your life, and none of it is going to have anything to do with you. None of it. They may tell you it has something to do with you, but it doesn't have anything to do with you. They are just refusing to look at their part in the equation. And that's where they're at spiritually. You have to just kind of accept that and let it go. But I feel like, and I'm going to end with this, I feel like taking your emotions and not hoarding them, and sometimes we do that unconsciously like I did, and actually evaluating them. Let's fucking dissect them. It's like, I'm not just going to slay my demons. I want to dissect them and find out what the fuck they've been feeding on. You know what I mean? And now it's almost like I have so much love for my aunt, both of my aunts and my family. I feel like we need those fucking people in our lives to push us. Like, who else is going to give us those lessons? Like, they had to come in and be the bad guy. You know what I mean? And it's not easy to be the bad guy. I'm sure part of her did feel bad, but her fear of, of going to hell, or her daughter going to hell, was more powerful than, whatever connection she thought she had with me when I was younger, because she did take care of me when I was little. So appreciate those fucking people. You may not be able to appreciate them right away, and the pain may be overbearing and overwhelming, but I'm telling you, I felt the fucking pain too. You know what I mean? But it was necessary. Like, I needed to feel that. I had to address that. It was holding me down, and I didn't even realize it. Do you understand? I love you guys so much. All my links are below.